speaking to us from his tax haven in Monaco to preserve all of the lower body basics money, David Gray, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Kier. I'm on the yacht here, so that's nice. I'm like McGregor. It's hard to keep it's hard to keep hustling when you're coming in from the yacht every morning.
Bro, you are so much nicer than McGregor. Before we get into it, give me the lowdown on that. How do Irish people feel about him in recent months?
Recent years, probably.
Yeah.
Like I would say it's 50-50, maybe gone the wrong side of 50-50 for him now. But like, Irish people really don't like someone who gets above their station kind of thing, where it's like you just like in anything. It's like if you start being successful, if you show any kind of ego involved at all, people will start to kind of hate you. So he kind of always had that, and he's charismatic enough to get away with it, but a lot of people just do not like him. And he's not, in fairness, he's not a very good, like, if you think of Ireland, Americans think of Ireland, they think of probably Guinness or Conor McGregor. So like, he's not a very good ambassador in the last few years.
Yeah, I think it's like, do you know Rachel Guy? She's like big in the like female fitness space. I met her in Sydney. She's obviously from Wales, and she was saying that her experience of the tall poppy syndrome in the UK was way worse than it is in Australia.
Yeah.
And to me, the extreme is America, where I used to say, like, in England, you say, oh, I want to be the best in the world. People will tell you to, do your time and remember your station. Whereas like in America, they'll say, oh, that's awesome. And then they'll try and sell you a product or service to help you do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it does seem that he's just, I went back and contrasted the loss against Nate Diaz and looked at that interview. And then I look at how he conducts himself now, and I'm like,
yeah, he's lost himself. Like he's definitely like he had. So I do think, obviously he was kind of playing a game and media stuff all along, but like he seems to have lost a bit of, like, obviously you grow up in a martial arts background, there is a level of respect there for your opponent and all that stuff. And he seems like, now it's like, if I win, I have maybe some respect for him, and if I don't, I just throw the toys out of the pram completely.
So on the subject of outrageous wealth and popularity, you are, in the best possible way, social media chlamydia. You are everywhere. You are pervasive with your ideas, your programming. You've like really struck a chord with people. Can you say why you think that is, and which aspects of your education and come up have been different to kind of like command that attention?
Yeah, I don't know if it's as much as you're saying. I don't know, but like it has been interesting to see like the ideas spread over the last couple of years, and I don't know why. Like, it's easy to look back and say this is why or whatever. I think I just wrote a good program that people were able to do, and it's like people are able to do it, like coaches are able to do it for themselves, therapists are able to do it for themselves, and like feel good in their body, one, and then like take away things very quickly that they can apply to clients that just kind of make sense. And I just kind of encourage people to share their journey along the way, and it's insane, like, because it's just coaches literally all over the world are tagging me every single day using things and getting results. Like, it's literally about results. That's what I would say it's about. It is about like people feeling better. That's it.
How deliberate were you, just on the business side of things? How deliberate were you in terms of your social media strategy? Because I think you do that very, very well. Was it just like the way that you have always done it and it just kind of caught attention?
I'm deliberate. Like, I have a marketing and business background, so like I'm deliberate with my message, like, and how I say things and stuff. But that's just how I talk to clients anyway. And I was deliberate. Obviously, I understand that if you have a message and you are able to communicate it in a certain way, and you know who you're communicating it to, then like it's going to, as long as the message is halfway decent, it's going to catch on a little bit. And as long as you're consistent with it. So that's all I wasn't deliberate as in terms of like, right, I'm going to be here in 18 months or anything like that. It's literally just just keep chipping away, keep being consistent with it. And I said on a podcast the other day, I think you were on PT Performance podcast as well, but I said on that podcast, he asked me a similar thing, and he said, like, if like I wouldn't have changed my message even if it wasn't getting the publicity or whatever you want to use, whatever the word is, I wouldn't have changed my message 2 years ago. I would have been saying the same things because that's what I believe in. I just would have changed how I was saying it, or like changed the medium, but the message wouldn't have changed.
Yeah. And obviously it's such like it's such a motivated population to solve a problem, because obviously people buy an emotion, pain's emotional. And I do remember when I didn't listen, when I was coming up at university, somebody said, you know, if you want to make money, get them out of pain, don't prevent the pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So on that subject, I was definitely one of those people, like post-COVID, I ended up working with you a little bit. I had these issues post-COVID. I have had a couple of hamstring issues before, but certainly not doing a 10-meter sprint up a hill. Mm-hmm. So I had COVID, came back, right hamstring, rehabbed that myself, left hamstring, and then just like really, really bad osteitis pubis. And I was like, is this COVID related or whatever? And then we spoke, and you basically said, of course it's COVID related. Mm-hmm. You have a respiratory illness. Your pelvic floor is basically where all the breathing happens, and all the muscles are attached to your pelvic floor. So one of the consistent things that is a feature of your work is like PRI and breathing mechanic work. And I have to say, when I did it, I felt a lot better. And everyone I speak to, they say, when I did it, I felt a lot better. Mm-hmm. But when they have the coach hat on and they try and reconcile that against the purport, like the proposed explanations by the PRI crowd, there's that disconnect. So how would you as a medical practitioner reconcile those two?
It's hard, like, because there's two sides of it. Like, one, things work, and then the second thing, why things work. And I'm happy with just the knowledge that things work. And I'm happy knowing that I don't know exactly why things work. I am like, and I don't try and sugarcoat that. Like, if you, right, so you have a hamstring injury on one side, hamstring injury on the other side, and then like something smack bang in the middle, osteitis pubis. And I think you were like, I have some groin problems here. And just like, your pelvis, like all of those tissues are attaching onto the pelvis somewhere. So like, what's the common denominator? That shouldn't be that hard of a reach to start to say, maybe the pelvis isn't moving so well. And also, like, other people could argue with that in terms of, yes, COVID is the problem, that it like knocked you back and you weren't moving as much and all of these things. And now you just went and overloaded all of these tissues. Like, so yeah, like that's obviously part of it as well. Why it works, I just try and be so simple with these things, and I'm like what's moving, what's not moving well, and can we get it moving? And I think some of the PRI explanations sometimes are around, like, they are around pelvic floor, they are around diaphragm, and that's such a mysterious thing. It's like the diaphragm is this mysterious tissue. Just look at the rib cage. Like, are the ribs moving? If there's joints there, I want to have movement there. If there's joints, like, I want the hips to be able to flex, extend, IR, ER, adduct, abduct. So a strength coach can't really argue with that. Do you want all the hips to be able to do all of those movements? Yes. Okay. Look at how I assess someone here. See how they can't abduct or adduct and internally rotate. Yeah. Now I'll do this breathing drill, and it's a fairly predictable response that's going to now change. So they are fairly predictable and repeatable responses, and that's what I'm looking for in treatment. The problem is people fall into like the PRI world where this is all I do, and then I don't ever progress people or load people. And then there's the other people who are like, everything is strength, and like nothing is about movement quality, quote unquote. And like, even like Dan Paff or any of the best strength coaches in the world, they're talking about the same thing in different language. Really, they have kind of a blueprint in their mind that they want someone to look like when they go and sprint. It might not be exact, and there is obviously differences in everything, but you're trying to move someone towards that. And PRI, I think, is just a good way of starting someone on a lower scale and then moving them towards that, where here's control of the tissues around your pelvis. Here's movements that you don't have access to. but don't stay there, move people on, but just give them, you can use it for sensation, like proprioception down there. You can use it to gain range of motion. You're not going to build much strength, but if muscles are in maybe a better, whatever that means, length tension relationship, then maybe you also don't need as much strength because they're in a better position to produce force. So there's so many ways you can go around it.
Do you think there's like a re-education aspect to it as well? Because obviously when you're in pain, you expect pain. And it's almost like, well, okay, supine on the floor, feet on the wall, you're not in pain. And then it's a good 5 to 10 minutes of like, hey, you're not in pain, and that threshold comes down a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that regard, like you could give someone in pain kind of nearly anything that's not pain and just give them a different sensation, a different feeling. And that's probably a good thing, even if you're moving them away from what you would say is your ideal biomechanical model. You're moving them further into a bad quote unquote again, but like you're moving them further away from what you think is ideal. You're still giving them something different than what they have already. Yeah. So you just want to give someone the system, the adaptability to respond to something in a different way. But I just don't see the issue that people have with it, to be honest. I can understand why, but like it's just another way of getting some things moving that aren't moving. And then the issue is, but that's why like in my programs and stuff, I don't just bank on that stuff. We have like hamstring exercises and stuff that like literally no one can do because they're not strong enough. So I just make sure I just show all these different little things at people, and like I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket by any means. Yeah.
Well, it's funny, you know, the training method that we discussed where they turn their feet in. I won't give them the name. But, you know, literally this week I had a conversation with a guy where one of their best players is just like died in the wall with that training method. And this guy makes millions and millions a year. And they're trying to get their heads around it, like, why is this guy so into it? And again, I think it was just because it's the lack of pain. And as you said, it strikes me as an extreme example. Taking someone completely away from what you think the biomechanical model is. But here's the thing, when you take a bar off somebody's back, when you stop drilling weight into them as hard as possible, guess what? You're going to feel good. And I think it's like, that's what those people fail to see. It's like, oh, athletes feel so good about this. Yeah, but it's like, if I'm punching you every single day and I stop punching you, you're going to feel tremendous. If I put, 1 RM on your back every single day and then we stop doing that and concentrate on doing this with your feet, you're going to feel tremendous, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You are. And like, maybe that's like, maybe those guys who we might not necessarily like that much, like maybe they're doing a good job by just taking that stress away that maybe for some part of the year people don't need, or like they've spent 15 years in the weight room building that up and like, okay, maybe I can take this away for a couple of months. But like there is a trade-off here where it's like, okay, like
starting the rot. It's like
maybe exactly.
Like, don't brush your teeth for a day, no problem. Don't brush your teeth for a week. Don't brush your teeth for 3 months. You're going to be toothless. And it's the same when it comes to the load. It's like you stop loading them for a day, a week, whatever. They're actually probably going to feel better. But it's like once you stop loading for a long period of time, especially in a sport like that with the off season they have, it's going to be problematic.
Exactly. But it might not even show up if they're still training. It'll show up like when they go back to training and they're not training with those people as much. And then they will say, oh, they didn't continue to train my way every single day. Actually, what you did 3 months ago fucked them up. Yeah. Or what you didn't do 3 months ago.
Bizarrely, that is like, whenever I've been at major competitions, and I think Fernando and I might have spoken about this, which is when you go to the major competition, Olympics, World Cup, whatever, you shouldn't really have any stress, because guess what? Whatever's going to happen to you, you planted those seeds months ago and you cannot do a fucking thing about it anymore.
Yeah, we've had this conversation before, especially like into competitions. For me, culturally, it was hard to get the boys not to lift as same as in competition. Same for the coaches who train loads and stuff. It's like the work is done. Like once I'm here, there's nothing else we can do. Whatever we didn't do a month ago, now we can't really catch up. So we just do like, move quick, move well, stay loose and stay like fresh. And that was our performance. It was just the not doing what was getting us, doing stuff and competing. Like you said, like there's other stuff when they come into the season, they're just playing the sport. So if you put the weight on top of that and put the other stress on top of that, and you just like pack and you try to get 110% of them and they only have 100%, that's how you'll mess up. So like Dave was saying, it's just, you're actually removing something is what made them better, not what you just changed or the technique we just don't want to mention.
Yeah, and there is definitely some of that for some people with the PRI stuff, where it's just literally like, I'm just taking away the noxious stimulus rather than like giving you something that's absolutely amazing or perfect for your body. It's just, you stop doing the thing that was just aggravating the shit out of you for a while. And for me, that's more important. It's like, it is taking away, like not detraining someone, but taking away the thing that their body just is kind of rejecting at the moment. Even if that's a change in a back squat to a goblet squat or whatever, it's just stop doing the thing that's just really making you feel like shit at the moment, especially if you're an athlete who makes their money playing on the weekend. You know, just remember to keep the goal, as Dan John would say.
It's an accidental tapering.
So, I mean, by the sounds of it, we've kind of touched on it, and you've alluded to it a couple of times. Are the seeds of injury, pain, I'll use dysfunction in air quotes, being sown in training? Because much of what, you know, I've seen you talk about, what I feel makes your clients feel good, you are taught not to do in the gym. So for example, generating movement through the lumbar spine, or like just having a mobile spine, even when it's under load, you're taught never to do that. Stuff like drilling guys, never let your knees come in when you land or when you jump. Basically everything has to be stacked. All the kind of running stuff where you have to be extending the knee super early. Tons of emphasis on, you know, isotonic up and down weightlifting, as opposed to generating co-contractions to transfer energy into the tendons and return it. Like how much of the problems we see are we responsible for?
I don't know. I'm sitting the fence on that one. Like maybe you could blame the strength coach, and then maybe they would have been fine until they just didn't sleep last night and then they got injured. So like, who are you going to blame it on? The girlfriend that kept them up all night, or the strength coach? So I don't know, like that, but that stuff that you're just saying there about like the different co-contractions at a different time, it's timing and getting the spine to move, like that just makes sense. It's like it's look at a power lifter moving and he just doesn't move well, and like they don't move it, they don't sprint. Of course you're not expecting them to be fast because they're not sprinting and stuff, but like you're a lot of the time you are moving people toward moving a little bit more like a power lifter when they've done so much heavy gym work. And like if you just get the spine, like in a split squat, you turn the spine towards the front leg, you turn the pelvis towards the front leg a little bit, it makes sense in terms of, okay, I'll probably like load the hip in a different way, I'll probably load the adductor, I'll probably load the lateral hip, I'll probably load the hamstring in a different way. But also it kind of looks like gait, which people might hate, like when someone says that. But like also it just puts more load on the front leg rather than having more weight on in between both legs. Like I'm actually getting loaded on top of one leg and then loaded on top of the other leg. So like that makes sense to me. And understanding like the hip extension should come before knee extension in every single movement you see. When someone walks, you want them to be extending their hip before their knee. When they run, when they jump, it happens. That's a biomechanical truth, you could pretty much say. And then you see people in the gym who are coaching like knee extension, like triple extension, but coaching it through the knee and all of this stuff, and they're not getting an active hip extension anymore. It's kind of a quad that just straightens the knee really early. Like that can't be what we want to see happen and ingraining into, because the system can learn. The system learns quite quickly. It really does. So I think you have to understand your biomechanics, and it can help you with, especially with your accessory exercises, which might not have to be always accessory exercises. Like you might, like they could make up some of your main exercises for at least some of the year.
Do you think there are like anthropometric archetypes that pay a higher price for that? Because obviously when I went over, you know, you hear about like Stuart McGill talk about like Asian hips and like Celtic hips. one of the things that I was talking to people in China, like I went over like 10 years ago, and they're such like quad dominant, knees forward, especially in the weightlifting. But then you look at, people like me, that's a square peg in a round hole. I've got like super long legs, long femurs. Do you think that some people pay a higher price for those strategies?
Bill Hartman in the kind of type PRI type world talks about two archetypes, like a narrow infrasternal angle and a wide, and he kind of boxes people in, not as strict as that, but like someone is basically wider at the infrasternal angle here, and he will say like that you will see all of these typical things in that person versus a narrow person. So basically wides are better in the gym and narrows aren't. I don't know if I subscribe to that or if I just haven't seen as much of that. But I don't know. I think everyone is individual. So it's hard. I think it's hard to box people in. Some people just like eat weights and fucking love it. And some people just feel like shit very quickly.
Mm. Do you feel like the overemphasis, or no, I won't say it for you. Do you feel the emphasis on concentric muscle action it's become so much of something to lean on in traditional S&C that we're like missing the big picture? Because I put it up again yesterday where slow motion of Tyson Fury knocking out Deontay Wilder, and I'm like, right, like your video of Usain Bolt sprinting, I was like, look at the change in the angle of his shoulder and his elbow when he's in contact with this guy. There's nothing happening.
Nothing. No. And what you didn't say was
isometric tension
at 90 degrees. Yeah. And that's not a Joel Seedman reference. But it was the elbow and the shoulder pretty much at 90 degrees. Franz Bosch, who might not necessarily have like his practical application might not be amazing, and I don't agree with it some of the time and stuff, but I do appreciate his way of looking at movement and like trying to be better at analyzing movement, what's happening in high speed movement. And like he says that the shoulder muscles operate pretty much like in any dynamic movement, that they're going to try and operate in isometric like conditions, and the best angle for that to happen is at 90 degrees. And like that's what you see in every thrower in punch boxing like that. You see a 90-degree angle, and that's so the muscles can operate. Just they're all just at isometric. So one, it's protecting me, like they don't have to shorten or lengthen, and two, it can transfer energy around the chain and from proximal to distal, like so from, in Tyson Fury's case, from the floor all the way up through his body and then out through his hand, rather than changing angle at the shoulder and the elbow. So now there is a like, if I emphasize concentric muscle actions, am I just strong enough to, and practice the skill, am I just strong enough and now skillful enough to do that? Do I need to emphasize isometric contractions or eccentric contractions? I don't know is the answer. I think I do at the lower limb. I don't know how much I do at the upper limb, because it tends to be like more open chain than closed chain at the upper limb, open chain at the lower limb. You've no choice but to be able to contract isometrically, especially before your foot hits the floor. You have no choice. Otherwise, it's too late when your foot hits the floor and like you'll crumble. So definitely at the lower limb, yeah.
One of the things, I'm like run it past you, but looking at the research from Stuart McGill, he talks about this double pulse strategy. So with striking, so punching a bag or hitting a golf ball with a club, he looks at EMG, and what we want to think, this is why I put it up, what we want to think of as, oh, this is going to be a constant acceleration. It's going to be the muscles switch on and they stay on. He actually calls it the paradox of muscle contraction. So he's like, well, yes, you need to switch those muscles on to generate the force of impact, but if you keep them on, you actually move slower. It's like internal braking. So you see this big pulse at the top of the swing, a switch off, and then a pulse again when you're making contact with the ball or with the bag. And of course, like Newton's laws of motion, you hit that bag wants to deform you in the opposite direction. So he talks about creating maximum effective mass to deform the bag. And I was reading that and I was like, well, hang on, running is just a collision with the ground. Is the same thing true? And then I saw your video, and that's when I started to think about putting the pieces together. And I started looking at film, and it seems to me that the instances where I'll talk about rugby because I know rugby, when somebody finds a load and then just drives through and accelerates, it's actually incredibly rare.
Yeah.
All, tense up, let the other guy crumple around you, relax.
Yeah. It's a brace. It's compression. It's compressing, squeezing everything together. And they'll also, like, if you wanted to look at the PRI world, like, they'll take a breath, like it's a Valsalva maneuver, like a powerlifter. They cut off the air on the throat, they close their mouth, and it's because, like, I don't want to be exhaling as someone's doing that. I want to just brace, because if you think about, like, packing air into, like, air is strong is the wrong word. Air is strong when it's my body is full of air and it's compressed, and so everything is pushing out against everything else. There's no space.
The inflated balloon against the deflated balloon.
Exactly. So there's no space inside my body now for my guts to just get flown around when someone absolutely nails me. Like, something's gonna go wrong there. So everything, it's like literally like a powerlifter at that point. He's bracing, and they don't want movement there. They want no movement. They have co-contractions everywhere. And someone kind of hitting me is like that. I'm bracing as much as possible. And that's why you see that Valsalva maneuver as well. The air is cut off. Air is strong. It's like Bill Hartman talks about, like a Coke can. You could step on a full Coke can. Like, the fluid in there it's not strong, but because it's all tightly packed, I can stand on it. If I pour that out, I can step on it, it's going to crush. So that's why air flow is important.
Start to put like a dent in one side as well. That's the analogy that I've used for my guys. So
yep.
What would you say? I'm making the assumption that lower body basics is written with the typical issues that field sport athletes have in mind. What would you say the big rocks are that you're trying to solve with lower body basics?
One is pelvic, like, control, whatever that means. Just like giving them an idea of what kind of neutral pelvis is and feels like. Two is like which then allows the hips to kind of start to shift, rather than like just going into anterior pelvic tilt and back extension straight away. It actually allows the hips to start to shift from side to side. So we do a lot of like abduction, adduction, hip shifting type work, and so they kind of come along together. So if the pelvis is forward in an anterior tilt, or very far forward, my mass is far forward on my feet, my back extensors are on straight away, because my brain does not want me to fall over. So it's going to switch on a lot of things, my calves, my back, all that stuff. So we just get their center of mass back over their midfoot and their heels a little bit. So pelvic control, hip shifting work, and then probably just, there's two parts to it then. Like, one day is like working through the heels. So like a lot of strength exercises through the heels. And then the other day is, which is more, we're talking, when I say heel, I'm talking more hamstring and proximal hamstring. They kind of come together. And then when we go on to like the midfoot and the forefoot, it's more of a distal to proximal strategy. So like, I'm pressing down through the front half of the foot. That gets my plantar flexors, my calf to start kick in. And now I'm getting distal hamstring to start to work. And I'm getting them two or them groups of tissues to coordinate well together. And that's where people cramp in those bridges where we have the forefoot on something. And it does beg the question, and it does make a lot of coaches think, because they can do a shit ton of hamstring curls or a shit ton of Nordics and then a shit ton of seated calf work. And they say, like, this person here is the strongest athlete at this calf raise and this hamstring curl. And I have all the data to back it up. And then I try and get them tissues to coordinate well together in a bridge, and they cramp and they keep cramping, and like, they have so many issues, and suddenly their knee issues start to go away when they get strong at that. So I'm thinking, like, there's intramuscular coordination is a big thing here, and getting them to start to coordinate well together. I think it's massive. I think, like, that's my bias, but I think it's a really big deal.
I can give you my word for that. When I try the program, I do my typical mobility and my strength stuff, and I would consider I'm really good at that. But the word I've seen on the people that post your exercise and they just share, it's humbling. Like, I get into that position, go on my side, try to get one knee in front of the other, and then just move, and I realize it was not moving. Like, I'm actually trying to separate my hips, and it's not happening. I'm like, how come? I can move in every way. I'm strong.
And Fernando is like an ant. That's like 150 kilo back squat at 65 kg. This man's a fucking beast.
I used to. But I also stay athletic. I sprint. When I was showing the guys, I I'm proud that I can pretty much do all the movements. And it comes to what you said, like we all try to understand through models and box stuff. And, it's safer to think in terms of sets and reps and basic exercises. But COVID made me think, if I had to break down movements, because pretty much we had to rehab everyone, but they weren't injured, but they just couldn't move.
Yeah.
If I had to choose between someone that had a full equipped gym and someone that had just a field and they could do the running, the stopping, the twisting, all the combined co-contractions, 100%. I just realized I didn't really care about the gym anymore past a certain point. Yeah. And it all came down to a program. Like, I like it how you put lower body basics 1 and basics 2 is not like you just didn't progress. It's still basic. That's
yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like
that was a branding thing too, though. I didn't think lower body intermediate sounded as good.
Well, also what you have to do is you have to write the price as €300, and then you cross it out and put €50.
yeah. So no, you're right. Look, Fernando, and you're in a world where like collisions are important. Like, so obviously, like the gym is really important there.
Yeah, I'll just interrupt you with that. All our soft tissue injuries, of course, because we, made me think, out of months of lack of contact, all our soft tissue injuries happen during contact. Like people sort of like trying to reach for someone and get at that collision oscillatory movement when they were tired at top speed. And it was all in combined planes. I never had someone like in a sprint or in an if you get someone with soft tissue injury in a gym, you're fucked. But you know what I mean? Like they all looked like those completely combined, sort of like crouch, bend, extended, rotated. And we did those movements, we just didn't do them that speed and that much. So they all happened in that concept. That made me think like, what's happening,
Yeah. It's, I think some of the time it's like the inability for the system to transfer force away from a vulnerable area. And like, that's a coordination thing as much as it's a strength thing. Like I can protect the vulnerable tissue in 2 ways. I can strengthen it, and I can leave it as strong as it is, but teach it to the system to transfer force away from that area, so it doesn't have to handle as much force. There's a
huge skill piece to contact with that, because I've had this conversation. I did a presentation last week, and it's like, if you look at where the injuries happen, it's like there's more injuries in preseason than there is at the beginning of the season, and there's more injuries at the beginning of the season than there are at the end of the season. And there's maybe some survivorship bias and say, oh, everyone that's going to break has already broken by the end of the season, or you're not running last year's software on this year's hardware. To me, that's the issue that comes up. It's like, if you look at like basketball versus football post-COVID, all the basketball players, the injuries actually went down in the NBA bubble. And we're like, oh, they had 4 months off, they're supposed to break. No, because they kept playing pickup, they kept practicing their sport. They're still keeping that like perception action coupling up to speed. It's very, very difficult to get 21 of your friends together and pad up and go play a game of pickup American football. Or rugby.
Yeah, well, I would agree. I'd be biased a bit as well. Like, it's multifactorial, and in my analysis, all the numbers that I won't share because it's a different day, but the low management was bad as well. So in my perception, under fatigue, under stress with the traveling and the times and whatever, but like Dave said, the unprotected thing or the weakest link, whatever it is, it was always not a coincidence in those situations, like turn, twist, high speed, tired, bang, breaks. And there's people that were, in my regards, strong enough, quick enough, skillful enough, because we've done everything. But in that context, it was just around the pelvis,
Yeah.
So to finish up, I mentioned to you off air, I've said it before, the Irish strength and conditioning fitness community is like a friggin' mafia. If you were to look at our members, I would say disproportionately, as a percentage of population, probably double are Irish compared to people from the UK. On the Instagram metrics, one of the biggest cities that follows us is Dublin, top 3. If I ever do a seminar in Dublin, in the Republic of Ireland or Northern Ireland, it sells out way quicker than the UK. Why do you think there is such a strong culture? I don't want to put it all on Liam Hennessy's shoulders, but I think like Setanta, LIT is definitely a piece of it. But why is there such a strong culture in Ireland compared to the UK?
I think one part of it is like we always, I remember always growing up in like in Ireland in sport, in the GA, and always looking to England and always looking to the States and being like, they're on the top of their game. Like their training must be amazing. Look at the money these athletes are on. And like any trainer that ever worked in the Premier League must have been unbelievable and amazing and this and that. And I think there's that like kind of chip on the shoulder with Irish people that like maybe in the GA, like the money isn't there or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But we're going to like, I'm going to make sure that I'm as good as those people over there. I really think that's part of it. And they are like, there's some really unbelievable coaches here. And I would say, apart from like being like, some coaches are unbelievable, but I would say the average is really good. Like the average coach over here is really, really good compared to like when I was in the States and taught a couple of seminars. I was disappointed.
Like I was like you. I grew up in the UK, so I look just to America and I'm like, oh my God, when I get to America, it's going to be so good. And you work here and you're like, how do you function?
Yeah. Now maybe there's just more people. So like there's more shit people and maybe shit people stand out. But I don't know. I don't know. Like, I think maybe it's a GA thing. It's just like we're underprivileged type of thing. We're not professional, so the coaches are just going to put in so much work, extra work, because the players are kind of like that as well. The GA players like train too much, you know, they're overtraining. They're looking at Premier League players, and like if you actually realize what they did, it was like train and then sit on their couch for the rest of the day.
Yeah, there does seem to be you know, a real kind of like readiness to invest in themselves, put their hand in their pocket. And yeah, my child's college fund thanks you.
Not me. Them. Liam Hennessy. Who would you say is like, would you say he's like the most influential coach in Ireland then? He probably is.
You look at the most influential coaches in Ireland, they cite him as the most influential coach.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, if you just look at the network of coaches, Barry's probably a little bit different to that, but like Des, Jerry Flannery, Johnny O'Connor, you know, you got all these coaches coming out of LIT, or at some point they go through LIT. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to me that like Liam is basically, kind of built like the academic side of strength and conditioning in Ireland by himself. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and they're going global like now.
Yeah, you
know, I think they do a good job compared to what you can get elsewhere, maybe.
Yeah, so it's just it's good to see. It's just weird. How many people in Ireland? 10 million?
Less.
Oh, okay. Yeah, even less. And it's you know, population smaller than the city of London, and just punching above its weight. It's very, very impressive.
Have you ever spoken to John Kiley?
I think so.
He's really good.
John Kiley, another one. John Kiley.
Yeah. He's good. I love his, like, he talks obviously on periodization a lot, and shits all over that. But he's really good on coordination and stuff as well. Like he's like another version of Franz Bosch on that side of things. I think he's just falls more on the gym side of it. But he's really like, when I listen to him talking, like, and he's done it, and he's on the academic side. Like I'm really impressed by him and a lot of Irish coaches. Yeah.
Where can people find you and further enhance your the upgrade in your yacht?
You actually tagged me in that yacht picture like 2 years, a year ago. David Gray Rehab, GREY on Instagram is probably the best place.
Awesome.
And they can get a lower body.
You got your link tree on that?
I have it's linked to my new program at the moment. Actually, I must put back up my link tree there.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Pleasure.